So today I'm going to be giving you a list of tropical plants that you can safely plant during the winter time. If you're bored, sitting around the house, you got nothing better to do, and you just can't wait until spring to go outside and start digging holes for your plants, well, this list is something you can go by. But even if the plants on my list are not on your list, I'm gonna be giving you tips on what to look for, on what makes a plant, especially a tropical plant, safe to plant right now and not safe to plant. So let's get started. All right, so the first plant on the list is gonna be loquats. You're gonna get two different types of loquats, ones that are grafted and then ones that are seedling. Now for winter time, it's relevant because loquats do well in our area. The coldest temperature I've recorded personally is 19 degrees for about 12 hours straight. Loquats did not care. Loquat can also take frost. So, can you plant it right now? Yes, you can, but you gotta keep in mind, your tree will not start growing until the night temperatures warm up. So if you're planting right now, it's not to get a head start for next year. It's not because your tree is gonna grow nicely during the winter time. It's simply because you want to put it in the ground. Now, do you have to protect it? Like I said, no. Open sky, full winter, no issues. The only problem you're gonna have with loquats is if your trees have fruits and the temperatures get really cold, what's going to happen is your fruits are going to freeze. Wintertime is when loquats are actually ripening their fruit. So if it gets really cold for that long, even though the plant will not take any damage, your fruits are going to freeze and they will drop. So keep that in mind if you want to plant your loquat in the ground during the winter time, especially if it has fruits. Second plant on the list is going to be pineapple guavas, also known as feijoas. Now this is not an actual guava, it just looks like it, the fruits that is, and they taste very similar. These plants will not take any damage during the winter time. Like I said, 19 degrees consistently for 12 hours straight, and they can even take frost. No issues at all. This is an evergreen plant in our area and they really don't care. Now, all these plants that I'm showing you right now are for zones 9A and 9B. If you get colder, like to the point where your soil freezes, well, the choices for you are going to be extremely limited. So keep that in mind when I'm recommending these plants for you to plant during the winter time. But anyways, no frost protection, no cold protection. You can stick these plants in the ground right now and they will just sit there until warmer night temperatures next year to start growing. Third plant on the list, you guys seen this before, and that is Suriname Cherry, also known as Brazilian cherry. Suriname Cherry will take the winter no issues at all. They will take the cold in the high teens and they will even take frost. The only thing that you have to look for during the winter time with frost damage is your leaves on your Suriname cherries are going to turn red. That is the worst thing that happens to them during the winter time, especially if they get frost on them. Just make sure you keep watering them. Do not let them go fully dry, especially if you're gonna get really cold at night. But your Suriname cherry will tolerate the winter without any protection. As you can see, I already have frost in this area right here because this plant sitting in the front in open sky already have frost on it. Fourth plant on the list is going to be Yerva Mate. Well, this is technically not a fruit tree. It's more of an herbal plant. You make tea out of it. It's more like a green tea and it's very nutritional. This plant will actually take the winter in our area without any protection. The coldest temperature I have ever been in my property is 19 degrees. So whatever plant that I say no protection, I have personally tested it down to 19 degrees. These plants over here will also take direct frost on them. I've had frost on these plants right here that you're looking at for the past 2 winters, and as you can see, they look great. They're growing great, no issues at all. That brings us to the fifth plant on the list, and that is going to be strawberry guavas or catleys. Now, these plants are in the guava family, but they're not your tropical guavas. The fruits are smaller, they're sweet, they are an easy plant to grow in our area. And surprisingly, they will take the cold temperatures, and they will also take frost. The only time that I've noticed these plants take damage in the winter time is if it gets super cold to the point where it actually start building up thick ice on the leaves of your plant, and then you may get some frost damage. But even then, they'll make it through the winter here without any protection. They sit here all year around, and all we do in the winter is just water when dry, and they make it just fine. No issues at all. Another plant in the same category is going to be lemon guavas. Lemon guavas in our area, they will take the cold temperatures, but in my experience, I've noticed them to take a little more frost damage than the strawberry guavas right here. So can you plant a lemon guava in the ground? Yes, you can, but just keep in mind, if it gets really bad frost damage, it will take a little bit of damage, but even that damage will not kill your plant. It's only cosmetic. Usually whatever the ice touches, you know, it will get damaged, but it will regrow in the spring. Now this plant, I'm not sure if it's tropical or not, but a lot of people use this plant for cooking, and that is bay laurel or sweet bay. These plants take the winter in our area without any protection. They will take the cold, they will take the frost, they don't care. Just stick them in the ground and they will grow. Now these plants, they can tolerate like single digits. How cold, I don't know, because it doesn't get that cold in my area. But if you see these plants on sale, you can go ahead, pick one up, and you can stick it in the ground during the winter time without having to worry about killing it. So those are some of the plants, tropical plants, that you can plant in the ground during the winter time without having to worry about protecting them. Now the next plants on the list require minimal protection, and that is frost protection. So let me show them to you. Barbados Cherry. This plant in our area, it is frost sensitive. Can you put it in the ground during the winter time? Yes, you can, but you have to make sure the ice does not touch this plant. While the plant will be able to take really cold ambient temperatures, 19 degrees, if ice touches the plant, whatever the ice touches, it's going to kill you, whatever it touches. Now, if your plant's small and it gets frost damage, well, your plant is dead. So this is one of those plants that if you have it, you can go ahead and put it in the ground, but you have to make sure you're frost protected, because if you don't, your plant is dead. So it's up to you. Wait until spring or plant it in the ground. The good thing about this plant right here is once it grows roots in the ground, it actually will become stronger. So next year when it gets frost damage, yes, it will still die back down, but it will actually regrow from the ground up if it has roots in the ground. Right now, if you put this in the ground, those roots don't count. So if this plant gets severely frost damaged, it will just die down and it's gone. But like I said, you can put it in the ground as long as you're frost protected. Another plant that you can put in the ground during the winter time, as long as you provide frost protection, is going to be guavas. This one right here, it's a red Malaysian guava. Very popular because in direct sunlight, the leaves turn really red. When you keep them too shaded, like here, they stay mainly green. But guavas are one of our main sellers here at the nursery. They grow in full sun, and in the winter time, all you gotta do is frost protect them. And just like Barbados cherries, once they grow roots in the ground, they will tolerate frost a lot better. Can you put it in the ground right now? Yes, you can, but you gotta make sure you frost protect your plant and water it, because if you don't, your plant is dead. Another plant very similar to Barbados cherry, it's going to be pitanga tuba or star cherries. The growing conditions for these plants right here is the same as Barbados cherries. That you can put one in the ground right now, you just gotta make sure you're frost protected, because if you don't, your plant is dead. So just throw a sheet on it and make sure it does not get wet and the water freezes under your plant. As long as you do that during the winter time, your plant will be okay. Another plant that you can put in the ground right now, not necessarily a fruit tree, but it's actually a tropical plant and a lot of people don't know about. These are Bayram. Yes, it's in the allspice family, but this one right here is not edible. This plant right here, you can actually get oil from the leaves and use that to make perfumes and colognes. The leaves are extremely fragrant, and once you smell one, you will never forget it. This is a tropical plant, and surprisingly, it will take the cold temperatures in our area. All it needs is just frost protection. Now, how cold is too cold? Well, all these plants, remember, I've tested to high teens. I've never been any lower here, so if you get colder than that in your area, well, I don't know. You're gonna have to test it out yourself. Another popular plant that we sell a lot of here at the nursery is going to be Sapota, also known as Sapodilla, Chico, Chiku. It has many different names, but the plant is the same. They are brown, they taste like brown sugar or molasses, and in our area, they always take the winter temperatures without any issues, as long as I frost protect them. Now, this is a bigger 45-gallon Sapota right here, and the only protection it has during the winter time for the past 4 years it's been here, it's just my pine trees up there. Just frost protection, overhead protection. You just gotta make sure the plant does not get wet when it's gonna get really cold for a long time, so that way the water doesn't freeze on your plant. As long as you do that in the winter time, you are good to go. Very tropical plant, but surprisingly it does well with just minimal frost protection. Something else you can plant in the ground right now that I actually have on sale for 25 bucks. These plants are about 6 feet tall. These are 9 blooming jasmines. It's a tropical flowering plant that blooms at night, and the blooms are extremely fragrant. As long as you frost protect this plant in the winter time, especially when not rooted in the ground, they will make it through the winter time. Once they actually grow roots in the ground, even if they get frost damage in the winter, all you gotta do is just prune them a little bit in the spring, and they will regrow very quickly once the night temperatures warm up. But this is something you can put in the ground right now, especially if you get one from me that I have on sale, because I mean 25 bucks from 50 bucks, it's a deal. Something else you can put in the ground during the winter time is Jabotakaba. This is a Brazilian fruit tree, very popular, and it's something you can put in the ground in the winter time. They do not take cold damage from the ambient temperatures in our area, and all you gotta do is frost protect them. That's it. Very slow growing plant. It will not grow in the winter, but I guess if you have it and you just can't wait, you can go ahead and put it in the ground as long as you frost protect them. They come in many different varieties. This one right here, it's a black one. I also have blue, and I have 2 different varieties of yellow. This one over here, it's called a Grumichama. This is something you can put in the ground in the winter time as well. Surprisingly, in my area, all they need is frost protection. This is very similar to Suriname Cherry in taste. They look even very similar too. You can put this in the ground in the winter time as long as you frost protect it. But if you forget, even one night, your plant is dead. This is something you will always have to protect in the winter. And if you don't, whatever the ice touches will kill. So make sure you protect this plant. This is another plant you can put in the ground during the winter time too. And this is Henna, also known as mehendi. Yes, you can actually make ink out of the leaves from this plant. Very popular in Indian culture. We sell a lot of these plants. They grow beautifully, especially in full sun when it's extremely hot at night. And all you gotta do in the winter is frost protection. It does tolerate the cold temperatures, ambient temperatures. But what usually happens when it gets in the low 20s, your whole plant is going to defoliate. That is normal. So when that happens, just keep protecting your plant from frost especially. And this is one of the plants that actually takes the longest to wake up. Ours usually don't start waking up until like late April, May, when the night temperatures start getting around 60 degrees and even 70 degrees. Until then, they look like dead sticks. But yeah, if you have one, put it in the ground if you really want to. But you gotta make sure you protect it, because if you don't, your plant is dead. Those are some of the plants that you can actually put in the ground right now in the winter time if you really have to, and not have to worry about them dying, unless you need to frost protect them. So remember, if they need frost protection, you gotta frost protect them. Those are some of the plants. I have a lot of them. We can talk about plants all day. Now, what are some of the things you need to look for, especially if you have a plant that was not on my list and you want to put it in the ground? Well, the first thing is you need to identify if your plant is cold sensitive or frost sensitive. If you need to know the difference, well, I got videos where I explain in details the difference between the two. But just to give you a quick summary, cold sensitive means ambient temperature. And frost sensitive means exactly what it sounds like. Frost will damage your plant. Every plant that is cold sensitive will always be frost sensitive, but not all plants that are frost sensitive will always be cold sensitive. You get that? I know it sounds a little complicated, but it's not. Cold sensitive is just the ambient temperature. It's very hard to protect a cold sensitive plant because you have to change the ambient temperature. How can you do that? You can't just throw a blanket on it because it's still going to be cold in there. So identify which one applies to your plant, and then that will tell you if you can put it in the ground during the winter. If it's cold sensitive, I do not recommend you to put it in the ground at all, because your plant without roots in the ground will die even easier than another one that has roots in the ground. Frost sensitive plants are easier to protect because all you gotta do is just throw a sheet on them, make sure the sheet's not touching your plant, and generally you're good to go, as long as you don't get extremely cold. Those are the things to look for if you want to plant something in the ground, especially if it's tropical, especially if it likes warm temperatures. Now, obviously, this does not apply to other plants that do not take frost or cold damage. If you have apples, you have peaches, nectarines, any deciduous plant, you can go ahead and stick them in the ground right now because you don't have to protect them in the winter time. So those are always safe to plant during the winter. But anyways, hopefully this helps you out, guys. As always, if you have any questions, comment below. Don't forget to like the video, subscribe, and I will see you next time.